Genesis 40.
Chapter 40. Joseph interprets 2 dreams. Sometime later, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker offended their royal master. Pharaoh became angry with these 2 officials, and he put them in the prison where Joseph was, in the palace of the captain of the guard. They remained in prison for quite some time, and the captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, who looked after them. While they were in prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed that they both looked upset. "Why do you look so worried today?" he asked them. And they replied, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." "Interpreting dreams is God's business," Joseph replied. "Go ahead and tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream first. "In my dream," he said, "I saw a grapevine in front of me. The vine had 3 branches that began to bud and blossom, and soon it produced clusters of ripe grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's wine cup in my hand, so I took a cluster of grapes and squeezed the juice into the cup. Then I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." "This is what the dream means," Joseph said. "The 3 branches represent 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up and restore you to your position as his chief cupbearer. And please remember me and do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to Pharaoh so he might let me out of this place. For I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison, but I did nothing to deserve it." When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given the first dream such a positive interpretation, he said to Joseph, "I had a dream too. In my dream, there were 3 baskets of white pastries stacked on my head. The top basket contained all kinds of pastries for Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate them from the basket on my head." "This is what the dream means," Joseph told him. "The 3 baskets also represent 3 days. 3 days from now, Pharaoh will lift you up and impale your body on a pole. Then birds will come and peck away at your flesh." Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later, and he prepared a banquet for all his officials and staff. He summoned his chief cupbearer and chief baker to join the other officials. He then restored the chief cupbearer to his former position, so he could again hand Pharaoh his cup. But Pharaoh impaled the chief baker just as Joseph had predicted when he interpreted his dream. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot all about Joseph, never giving him another thought.
Genesis chapter 40. In Genesis chapter 40, verse 1, for the cupbearer and the baker were 2 of the most trusted men in Pharaoh's kingdom. The baker was in charge of making Pharaoh's food, and the cupbearer tasted Pharaoh's wine before giving it to him to make sure it was not contaminated or poisoned. These trusted men have been suspected of serious wrong, perhaps of conspiring against Pharaoh. Later, the cupbearer was released and the baker executed. In Genesis chapter 40, verse 8, when the subject of dreams came up, Joseph focused everyone's attention on God rather than using the situation to make himself look good. He turned it into a powerful witness for the Lord. One secret of effective witnesses is to recognize opportunities to relate God to the other person and experience. When the opportunity arises, we must have the courage to speak as Joseph did. In Genesis chapter 40, verse 23, when Pharaoh's cupbearer was freed from prison, he forgot about Joseph. 2 full years passed before Joseph had another opportunity to be freed. Genesis chapter 41, verse 1. Yet Joseph's faith was deep, and he would be ready when the next chance came. When we feel passed by, overlooked, or forgotten, we shouldn't be surprised that people are often ungrateful. In similar situations, we should trust God as Joseph did. Better opportunities may be waiting. And then Genesis chapter 41, verse 8. Magicians and wise men were common in the palaces of ancient rulers. Their job description included studying sacred arts, and scientists, reading the stars, interpreting dreams, predicting the future, and performing magic. These men were powerful, they said. These men had power, they said, in Exodus chapter 7, verse 11 and 12, but their power was satanic. They were unable to interpret Pharaoh's dream, but God revealed its interpretation to Joseph. Oops, I read over. That was Genesis chapter 41, verse 8. And we haven't even got to 41. (41, 8). The next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dream, so he called for all his magicians and wise men of Egypt. When Pharaoh told him his dream, not one of them could tell him what they meant. There was a fortune teller, there was a magician, they couldn't tell still, because God is the one that reveals stuff, truly. Same in the book of Daniel. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 6. If a person turns to mediums or necromancers whoring after them, I will set my face against that person and will cut him off from among his people. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 19, verse 21, now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, adultery, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. And then Isaiah 4:2-6 says, for you have rejected your people, the house of Jacob, because they are full of things from the east and of fortune tellers, like the Philistines, and they strike hands with the children of foreigners. Oh, here we go. Daniel chapter 5:11. There is a man in your kingdom, in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. In the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chef of the magicians, enchanters, Chaldeans, and astrologers. And then it says in Daniel chapter 5:7, the king called loudly to bring in the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and the astrologers. And the king declared to the wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and shows me its interpretation shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around his neck, and shall be the third ruler of the kingdom. And then the Daniel chapter 2:10 says, the Chaldeans answered the king and said, there is not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand, for no great and powerful king has asked such a thing of a magician or enchanter or Chaldean. And then Daniel chapter 2, verse 1 and 49 says, in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, his spirit was troubled, and his sleep left him. And then the king commanded the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to be summoned to tell the king his dreams. So they came in and stood before the king. And the king said to them, I had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. And then the Chaldeans said to the king in Arabic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, a word from me is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you shall be torn limb from limb, and your houses shall be laid in ruins. I'm trying to find the one where it says he told a dream. And then Daniel chapter 5, verse 17. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let your gifts be for yourself, and give your rewards to another. Nevertheless, I will read the writing to the king and make it known to him the interpretation. O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father kingship in greatness and glory and majesty. And because of the greatness that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled in fear before him. Whom he had killed, and whom he would have kept alive, whom he had would raise up, and whom he would be humbled. But when his heart was lifted up, no, it says Daniel chapter 5, verse